Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk to you about a powerful concept that can transform your life. Embracing imperfection. We live in a world that often equates success with flawlessness. But the truth is, mistakes are an inevitable part of the journey. Every great achievement, every moment of growth is built on a foundation of learning from our mistakes. Embracing imperfection is not about settling for less. It's about recognizing that each mistake is a stepping stone towards your greater self. It's about understanding that imperfection is not a weakness, but a testament to your courage to try, to take risks, and to strive for excellence. Today, I challenge you to see your mistakes not as failures, but as opportunities for growth and self-improvement. For instance, I provide a writing program called the Future Authoring Program that helps participants create a life vision and subsequently a plan of action. Imagine that it is therefore predicated on the notion. Additionally, it's a continuation of the concepts in the book, or at least a similar premise. The first thing you should do is, in essence, and this is rule number 2, imagine that you were taking care of yourself as though you were someone you cared for. Next, you ought to determine what you would like and require if you could have it. With whom would you be friends? How would you describe the connections in your family? In what manner would you interact with your kids? How would you go about being educated? You should consider how your life might be structured if you have that ability, and then you may set your sights on it. The ironic thing is that you will actually advance in that direction if you do set and strive for a goal of that kind. Because you will gain knowledge along the road, the objective will shift. However, in my therapeutic and consulting business, I have worked with hundreds of individuals, and every time we establish a goal, create a vision, and strive toward it, things for people invariably improve. It's challenging. It's a moral obligation, and it's not a luxury. I'm not happy either. The goal is not to find happiness. And, I've worked with a number of patients who have anxiety disorders, and one thing about them is that I don't find them mysterious. I recognize I have no trouble understanding why folks suffer from anxiety disorders, depression, or substance abuse issues. Why people don't have all of those things at once is always a puzzle to me, because there's a good reason for anxiety in everyone. Actually, the main source of our anxiety is that we are aware of our vulnerability and impending death. And it is a tremendous wonder how you can be calm in those conditions without feeling worried. It is a great enigma. Additionally, the same holds true for depression, and to a lesser extent, it also holds true for drug and alcohol dependence. There are undoubtedly many reasons to drink yourself to unconsciousness, as I mentioned last week. Not least, we could bring up the anxiety and despair that were already highlighted. Thus, additionally, the pharmaceuticals that individuals tend to use contain compounds that lessen the emotional impact of life's tragedies. Let's get back to the fear issue. Abraham is aware of his own self. This commentary states that the problem is that he still goes forward in spite of it. Despite being aware of the danger and feeling self-conscious, he continues. And in the face of a real non-naive grasp of what defines life, that is actually the right answer. What the heck do you know really if you're naive and you go forward? You're so ignorant and lack guts because you have no idea what might possibly stop you. You never know what threats you might encounter, but to recognize what exactly your issue is. Thus, to be entirely self-aware or existentially vigilant would be to fully understand your limitations and potential for harm, and to choose to proceed into the unknown and the country of strangers after that. That, in my opinion, is one of the keys to living a happy life. The clinical literature is extremely clear on this point. When dealing with folks who are fearful and somewhat sad but undoubtedly nervous, you should first ask them exactly what they are scared of. What might occur? After that, you break it down into smaller issues that are perhaps controllable. After that, you have the individual expose themselves to the fearful object. Nor do they experience a decrease in fear. The clinical literature doesn't support that. That's right. Rather than that, they get more courageous. And you do realize that's not the same thing? Because once you stop being terrified, you realize that the world isn't as frightening as you had believed. Foolish me, that's not what occurs if you get more courageous. As it turns out, The world is indeed just as scary as I had previously believed. It turns out that there's something in me that responds to taking that on as a voluntary challenge and grows and thrives as a result. Or maybe it's even more dangerous than I initially realized. Without a doubt, even the psychophysiological findings are very evident. If you place a stressor on two sets of individuals, with one group receiving the stressor unwillingly and the other group accepting it voluntarily, a completely distinct psychophysiological system is used by those who intentionally take up the stressor to cope with it. Instead of using the system linked to defensive aggressiveness and retreat, they employ the system linked to approach and challenge. Furthermore, there is a significantly stronger correlation between positive emotion and the challenge-associated system than there is with negative emotion. It's also a lot easier on you because once that protective posture system and the prey animal system kick in, you're good to go. You know, the brakes are engaged, the gas is pushed down to the OR, and the pedals are pulled down to the metal. To prepare for an emergency, you are utilizing resources that you could be saving for a later date right now. Therefore, the idea of being called to boldly go into the unfamiliar and the unknown is everything but simple or insignificant. And that's got a true adventure attached to it, right? That's why traveling is appealing in part because it's an exciting thing. Additionally, it is a good tonic to view yourself as the kind of creature who is capable of and eager to perform that action on a regular basis. I detest this word for its detrimental effects on your self-esteem, as it is unrelated to feeling good about oneself. As I've already said, there's not always a valid reason to feel good about yourself right away. However, if you can picture yourself being brave and honest, exploring the world, trying to better your situation, and taking calculated risks without becoming naive, then you will have something to lean on during the dark hours of the night, when you are questioning the meaning of your pointless and miserable existence. Thus, and that is vital because there are times when you wake up at 4 a.m, or at least on occasion when things haven't been going well and you wonder why in the world you are living such a horrible and pointless life. To refute it, you must have a solid argument. It can't just be justifications for why you think you're a valuable person in the eyes of others. That may be the case, but it's insufficient. Something more grounded in reality is required to counter it. And when things around you become a little unstable at night, one of the things that can help you sleep through the night is absolutely seeing courage in yourself. Do you have unsolved problems in your life that you might be solving? And the response is in the affirmative. It's also a simple thing to work out. One morning as you're sitting on your bed, you realize that although there are some things that must be done, there are also some things that you could do to improve the situation by the end of the day. What do they consist of? Yes, you could fix certain things that are within your reach. You will learn if you fix them. It's more difficult than it appears, so you'll learn. You'll learn how to mend things if you fix them. After that, another issue will present itself for you to resolve. Everybody has issues. What is meant by that? Like, the world is filled with an endless supply of issues. You just so happen to own some of them. For what reason is that the case? I'm not precisely sure. However, you are facing your own issues. Fantastic. Address them. As a therapist, one of the things I've learned, and this is something that all therapists must learn, is that when you're first starting out, one of the things you wonder about is how you're going to avoid taking your clients' tragedies home with you. And the reason for that is that it is unethical. Their difficulties are their problems, not yours. They are, as it were, their lives. You realize that your life is your troubles. You shouldn't solve other people's problems because you'll take away the rich significance that comes from letting them figure things out on their own, and you'll take the credit. I can assist you with that, though. It's like, all right, maybe, but then I'm not helping you with the next issue. In any case, by solving the difficulties that are directly in front of you, you will develop extremely quickly and eventually be able to solve more difficult issues without making them worse. Assume for a moment that you attend a party with the intention of impressing and winning over the folks in attendance. After being teased a little bit, you chuckle and sort of play along with everyone to make them like you. However, when you return home, you're still really pissed off about how you were treated at this party. That will cause a plethora of vengeful and violent thoughts to sort of flash through your imagination. I wish I could have stated that earlier. You were overly persona, which is the first half of the issue, isn't it? In a way, you gave yourself up during the party so that others would like you. Furthermore, in the second section, you deny the presence of the aspects of yourself that would have prevented you from acting in that way. Now, imagine returning home with a resentful, furious, and fantasized revenge. That exposes the aggressive shadow side of you, if you will. And the truth is, you really need it because you wouldn't have needed to put others down in order to win their approval if you had more skillfully incorporated that into your personality when you went to the party. Rather than looking like this, with a countenance that screams, "I'll take whatever comes my way." You know, you have a more determined, assertive face and stance. And if you successfully manifest it, people won't bother you in the first place. However, it's possible that you've already come to believe in a moral code that dictates that one must be likable, avoids conflict, and never ever hurts another person's feelings. You simply see yourself as a punching bag. And while you may believe that this makes you a nice person, it doesn't. In that case, there is also no incorporation of the shadow. We are conversing with each other. I'm making up my mind to pay attention to you, right? That's not how people normally interact because typically, when people talk to each other, they do something along the lines of, "Okay, let's have a conversation. I'll tell you why I'm right, and if you agree, I'll win." Or perhaps you're engaging in a conversation in which I'm not sure what you're attempting to accomplish. Perhaps you're not really listening to the person you're speaking to because you're attempting to impress them. All you're doing is planning your next statement. All right, so it's not this. You might know something about this, so I'm going to listen in the unlikely event that you have information that might be really helpful to me. You may therefore consider it an extension of Piaget's theory, which states that the process of generating knowledge and how knowledge is sought after are the two most essential components of knowing. If you are right and I discover that, then I have gained no new knowledge. I'm not any smarter than I was before. I just know what I knew before, and maybe that makes me happy because, it wasn't contested. Perhaps, though, you are not like me. You'll therefore say anything to me that I wouldn't like when I'm listening to you. Perhaps it's something challenging or distasteful for me, whatever it is. Perhaps you will discover. Maybe once you tell me something I don't know, I won't be quite as foolish and I won't painfully bump into as many obstacles. They're not the same as you, which is a really helpful realization, particularly if you live with someone and are attempting to build a lasting relationship with them. Furthermore, the way they perceive the world and the information they get from it differs from yours. Furthermore, the idea that two brains are better than one is true, despite your overwhelming tendency to prove your point. It's possible that 49 out of 50 items they tell you are unnecessary, or perhaps 9 out of 10. All you really need to know from the whole darn talk, though, is one thing you don't know. And the whole discourse is like that in a good psychotherapy session, which is one of the really amazing things about it. All you're doing is attempting to convey as accurately as you can the reality of the circumstance. And that's it. Roger then proposed, and I'll explain how he came up with it, that having a conversation like that with someone can improve you both. You'll both benefit psychologically from it. Thus, the idea that the sharing of truths is therapeutic is implied. That's a very great idea, though. It's a really profound thought, really. It's the deepest thought, in my opinion. It's the concept that genuinely serves as the foundation for Western civilization, though not just Western civilization. The notion that health results from truth. However, that was the sole goal of the Psychotherapy Alliance according to Rogers. You want to get well, which is why you visit me. It's not even necessarily clear to you what that means. I don't either. Together, we're going to solve it. However, you arrive and say, "Look, things don't sit well with me. Perhaps there's something I can do about that." Thus, that's the bare minimum requirement to start therapy. There's a problem, you want it fixed, and you're willing to discuss it openly. The therapeutic connection cannot begin in the absence of that. You might then wonder, what kinds of interactions are therapeutic? And the response to that would be that having a genuine relationship is healing. What you have is not a relationship if it isn't. What you have is only known to God. They are a dictator. You are their slave. You know, you two are at odds with each other. It's a conflict about primate dominance hierarchy. Oh, I'm not sure. You resemble two individuals holding hands around each other's throats or two cats in a barrel. Nevertheless, what you have isn't a partnership. Okay, so the more congruence of experience, awareness, and conduct that a single person communicates, the better. That alludes to the same concept I was discussing in relation to garbage. If you want things to go smoothly during our conversation, I will need to maintain consistency in my demeanor. If I fluctuate too much, you won't be able to rely on what I say. Furthermore, there's no reason for you to think I could truly inform you. I have the ability to express anything. It is accurate. For lack of a better phrase, the truth therefore becomes apparent when you get yourself in line and beat all the impurities out of your soul. For that to occur, you must be integrated, and you want to speak the truth, which is at least partially why you do that. The more of these traits are present in the subsequent connection, the more likely it is that reciprocal communication will occur. Thus, among the items, as someone who has been greatly affected by Rogers, I make it a point to listen intently throughout my therapy sessions. And then I watch and listen, and things will be going on in my thoughts as I'm listening. You never know. I might just tell the individual what I just kind of imagined, thought, or query came to me. However, it lacks direction. It's not like I have an objective. All we're attempting to do is improve things. I support the individual in question. I'm on the side of people who prefer things to get better rather than worse. After that, those parts of us have a conversation, and as a result, specific things happen. After that, I'll merely tell the person what transpired. Not that I'm correct either. That isn't the main idea. The important thing is that they get to spend an hour hearing from someone who genuinely cares about their opinions. This is how you're affecting me. I'm furious about this. I'm glad to hear this. This is quite fascinating. I don't exactly understand what you said an hour ago, but this makes me think about it. And the main goal is to just share experiences regarding how things are set up rather than for either party to make the claim or persuade the other that their position is valid. Furthermore, it's quite helpful to people because it can be really challenging to find someone to talk to who would actually listen. As our time together comes to a close, my friends, keep this in mind. Failure is not the end. Rather, it is the beginning of the path that leads to success. Know that you can learn from your mistakes and use them to improve yourself. Embrace your flaws with humility and grace. Everyone you look up to who has achieved great success has made mistakes and encountered obstacles. Their capacity to take such setbacks, grow from them, and go on is what really distinguishes them. You possess the same resiliency. Embrace your flaws and let them motivate you on your path. As you depart from this place today, take with you the knowledge that your actions, rather than your mistakes, define you. Turn your flaws into a strength, a reminder that you are human, and a driving force for self-improvement. Have faith in your capacity to persevere, change, and prosper in spite of setbacks. It means a lot to have you along for the ride. In this journey of self-discovery and development, let us remain steadfast in our support and encouragement of one another. Keep in mind that excellence is not the aim, but rather progress. Never stop trying to improve yourself. Instead, accept your shortcomings, rejoice in your victories, and learn from your mistakes. You have the ability, the strength, and the determination to overcome any obstacle. Recognize and accept your flaws. They are opportunities for growth.